In today's video, we're going to look at drawing linear graphs. Now, you remember we did this experiment where we took magnesium, we had it react with oxygen, and it made some magnesium oxide, and we had a set of results for that. So today we're going to take a set of results similar to the ones we achieved in the laboratory, and we're going to draw a graph for it, and we're going to see what it produces.
Okay, Group B, so I'd like you to start by having this table in front of you. I gave it to you during the lesson, and you can expect to get a table similar to this in the exam. However, some of the other values will be missing, similar to what you had in prep. So what I'd like you to do is, can you please calculate and fill in these missing numbers. Try not to look back in your book. I know you can just copy it across, but if you can calculate it using your calculator, and please remember that in your exam you will need to have your calculator to do these calculations. So I'll give you a minute to do that in. So you've now completed it, and I would assume that you have a set of results that look like this. Okay, so check your answers please, make sure you've got everything correct, because this is what you will need to do your graph. Okay, so let's get started. I do apologize, this graph should have some grid lines on it, which will make plotting your points much easier. So let's just start that quickly, and I'd like you to draw in some horizontal lines. Please make sure that these lines are perfectly horizontal, and I'd like you to draw in some vertical lines with your pencil, and draw them very lightly. Don't draw the very dark lines, just very faint lines. The next thing I'd like you to do or to notice is that each one of these sort of squares, you can see it goes from 0 to 0.5 to 1 to 1.5, and it goes up to a maximum of 2.5, matches the values in my table. Okay, and as you can see, the biggest value here, or the largest value, is 2, but it goes up to 2.5, so 2 is going to be somewhere here. And for magnesium oxide, my biggest value is 3.5, and you can see it goes up to 4. Always try to go a little bit bigger when you draw a graph. Okay, now what you have to remember is that this grid here, even though I didn't draw the individual increments, can be divided into 5, because that's 0.5, so that's 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, and you should be able to measure that along here as well. But there's no need for you to draw in the increments. Just remember that if I want 0.6, for example, 0.6 is not here, for example, it will be somewhere here. So it will be this vertical line here. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to leave that there just to help you a little bit, but just keep that in mind. So the next thing we do is we have to label the axes, and the thing that we change goes here on the horizontal, and the thing that it changes because of the experiment goes on the vertical. So mass of magnesium, the amount of magnesium that we use, goes here, and the amount of magnesium oxide produced goes there. Okay, so now you need to look at your table, and what we're going to do is we're going to plot mass of magnesium, this column, against mass of magnesium oxide produced. I'm going to start with this one first. So I'm going to take 0.8 grams of magnesium. Okay, so 0.8 is going to be somewhere there. So you can draw a vertical line if you like, or you can use your ruler just to find the position. And we're going to, that produces 1.2 grams of magnesium oxide. So 1.2 is there, and then you can do your point. Make sure your point is not too big, and make sure you have sort of neatly drawn lines if necessary. Okay, so that one is done. So next one, 0.4, 0.7, 0.4, okay, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.7. It's roughly there. Okay, and then you're going to have your point there. Alright, so pause the video, and I would like you to plot all the other points yourself. See if you can plot all the other points yourself, and when you have finished plotting the points, you can continue the video and you can watch what the graph should look like. Alright, so this is the graph we have produced. I apologize, the titles are missing. There we go, there's the titles. And what you can see is that most of my points sort of produce these scatter. The scatter graph, these points here produce, you can see it almost produces like a linear line, and this particular point here is not sort of following the trend. Okay, so what we need to do is we're going to draw in a trend line. But the first thing you've got to identify before you do that is that this point here is probably wrong. Okay, this is an anomaly, a mistake, and we should not be using this point. Now, before I draw my trend line, what you've got to remember is that my trend line has to start on the point, has to go from here, from the point 0, 0. The reason for that is that if I have 0 grams of magnesium, I produce 0 grams of magnesium oxide. So I must add a point here. My line has to go from here. Can't go from anywhere else. It has to start here. Okay, so now I've got that point. Okay, second thing that we need to notice is that this anomaly here, we do need to ignore it before we draw the trend line. So let's just have a quick look. So this point is probably a mistake, so we ignore it. We cannot include this when we draw a trend line. So you've got to almost imagine this point is not here. When you draw your trend line, or your line of best fit, it's also called line of best fit, what we need to try to do is, it has to start here first of all, and we need to try to go through as many points as possible, and if we can't, we need to make sure that we have equal number of points on either side of the line. Now here I've gone through quite a few points, and it's not an exact science to an extent. If I had to draw the line a little bit further down, I'd have quite a few points on this side of the line and fewer points on this side. So anything like this will be fine. Okay, so anything like this is fine. And there you have it. And there's your graph. Okay, so now you've finished the graph section of your prep or classwork, and I instructed you to attempt balancing these chemical equations. So what I'm hoping is that you have finished these, or in fact, if you could pause the video in a second, finish balancing these equations. If you are not sure how to balance it, some of them are a bit tricky, but most of them are okay. I just suggest just skipping it and go on to the next one. Please don't use all of your prep time to complete this. Stop about 5 minutes before the end of the lesson. Maybe ask Ms. Conway when the lesson finishes. You can stop, and then you need to take your purple pen and you need to check your work. Okay, so if you can pause the video, finish the worksheet, and then you can press play, because I'm now going to show you the answers. Alright, so check your work. Pause it if you like, and the next part of the... Okay, and there you go. Hopefully you've done well with that.